answer right now, we will. If we have to take those away and come back to you, we will do that also. And if there are some themes to some of those questionings, then I will try and capture some of that within a sort of FAQ that can run alongside some of the other supporting information and documents that will be coming out to you. Let's try and move the slide. So what we aim to do, what we really hope to do, is to promote health and wellness through accessible aquatic activities across the whole of Hampshire and the Isle of Wight. We absolutely recognise that there's some fantastic work happening, and this is not the beginning of supporting our communities through our water-based activities. It's been happening for a long time, and through some of the conversations that I've had leading up to this, we've heard of some really wonderful examples of where it's working really well, and also some of those barriers about thinking about how we can include more into what can already feel like a quite full programming within our pools. So this sort of work really started when we had a call to action, and that was probably around, I'm going to take a guess and say about 18 months ago or so. We have some local and regional meetings with lots of different health partners around that need to support our pools to demonstrate that they are really accessible environments, and for those who need to make some changes into their environments, just support them to do that too, and then to look at increasing our offer to our widest community, probably our inactive community, those most likely to be living with a health condition, into that water-based sort of activity. So we've been doing lots of work with our national partners, but also thinking about how we can get this going. So we've joined together some funding from our local partners. So big thanks to Hampshire County Council and the Isle of Wight, who've been able to release some of their own sort of funding to be able to support this programme. And then alongside some additional funding from Energise Me, we are able to sort of bring this programme to life for the whole of the Hampshire and the Isle of Wight patch, which is great. It's very well supported, and you will get to meet on this programme, if you haven't met Ali and Suzanne already. These are some of our national partners that have a wealth of experience about doing this all over the country, about the support needs for different pools, and we're really lucky to have that sort of wealth of knowledge coming to Hampshire to support the work that we're doing here. What else do I need to cover before I hand on? Probably a little bit about eligibility. So there's a couple of stages to this. One is around achieving that stage 1 of accreditation, to review our pool environment, to look at that accessibility, that inclusivity that we can provide. And then once that's been achieved, we'll be able to draw down, the pools will be able to draw down some funding, and that is approximately £3,850 per site. And just to give you a very quick overview, that figure was drawn really around the costs. It allows each site to deliver around 2 aquatic health programmes in their sites, looking at things like the needs for training and development for their staff, for any specific equipment that might be required, and there's some other bits that certainly when we're looking at Good Boost that Suzanne will cover as well. I won't go into the evidence. think you're all very much aware of the impact of and the benefits of being active in water. But yeah, just to say that we have looked at what's really strong, what is working well, what is having an impact, whether that's national programs or local programs. And we've done that sense check with a select number of pools to understand whether through this program we are going to be able to achieve the things that we really want to do, whether that is in line with what pools are aiming to achieve in their local areas. And we've made some adjustments to how the program is designed. So thank you so much for those that were involved in that. I am going to hand over to Ali Noyce, who is the Health and Wellbeing Manager for Swim England, who's going to tell us a little bit more about the accreditation. Ali, are you able to take?
No, I've got the take control button is greyed out, saying it's control is disabled. So if you're able to change that,
that would be great, wouldn't it?
Otherwise, we're going to have to do a Chris Whitty for the next half an hour.
Just give me a second.
While we're doing that, I'll just introduce myself.
Brilliant.
So delighted to see some familiar faces on the call today. Hi. Some of which I've been working with for a very long time, but also some new faces. So I will just introduce myself. My name's Ali Noyce. I'm the Health and Wellbeing Manager for Swim England. Delighted to be working with Energise Me in Public Health Hampshire on this project. We have got a lot of experience around the whole country, but this is the very first project of this kind. And I think the world is watching, to be fair. Delighted with the support from Energise Me. So that we're working together to support you guys at the pools to open up the water to people with long-term health conditions. So what I'm going to do today, just in the next 20 minutes to half an hour, is talk you through Water Wellbeing accreditation. Really conscious that I'm speaking to the converted for a number of people on the call today. So apologies if I'm going over things that you've already done and tick that box on, but I'm really conscious that some people won't know an awful lot about it. And therefore I will go back a little bit to the basics about the accreditation. I'll then talk about a couple of other opportunities that aren't part of the accreditation that you may be interested in. And then I'll talk about some additional support that we can provide as part of this project, but is also part of the water wellbeing resources. So let's see if we can get to take control. If not, we probably will need to move them on, Emily.
I'm sorry, Annie, I can't work out how to do it, so apologies.
So pop on the next slide, that'd be brilliant, thank you. Okay, so just a little bit of background around the Water Wellbeing accreditation. It's been a 12-year journey. It's pulling on numerous publications around the physical and mental health benefits of people with long-term health conditions being in the water. Specifically a dementia-friendly swimming project that ran for 3 years, finishing in 2017, where we worked with 100 pools across the country. Just wanting to support people in the water and understand what support both those individuals needed, but also the pool operators and owners themselves. So that programme evolved over the years and then 4 years ago became Water Wellbeing accredited. So in essence, and I'll do a quick summary now, and then I'll dive a little bit deeper, excuse the pun, around the different areas of accreditation. So it's fundamentally a 3-stage process. And at this point, it's very much guided by you. We're not prescriptive about timings around this, and conscious that this is a 2-year project, but this funding arrangement is that it's not something you have to do in a hurry. You do it at the pace that's right for you. Everyone starts from a different starting position. But it's a 3-stage process. First stage looks at accessibility and inclusivity. Second stage for the accreditation looks at what actual activity happens in the water. And the third stage is then 3 to 6 months down the line, where we look at the outcomes. Has it worked? And evaluate the whole project. I'm doing a shorter session a little bit later on this call around stage 3, so we'll just concentrate on the beginning bits for the moment. It's a 2-year accreditation. After 2 years, we just ask for submission of some new evidence or continued evidence, and it then rolls on a 2-yearly basis. The accreditation itself is achieved once stage 1 is completed and stage 2 has started. And what you will find is a lot of what we're doing in stage 2, you may already be doing at your pool anyway. So we can pop the next slide on, Emily. That'd be great. Thank you. Okay, so where are we? Just to give it some context as to the journey that we've been on. And pains to point out here, actually, Swim England don't run any pools. So all of this work has already been done by pool operators and owners delivering aquatic activity in their local communities. So we've now got actually over 215 sites accredited to date, with hundreds more working towards it across the country. Some of the national operators have now come on board. And everyone active who may be on the call today, I'm not sure, they have all of their sites already accredited, but a number of other national operators are now on their way to achieving that. And is it important? Is it important? Well, yes, it is, because as a result of the great work that's been done in those pools, we've got hundreds and thousands of more people being in the water, being active, over tens of thousands of hours of personalised aquatic activity being delivered in local communities to local participants to help them with their activity levels and the benefits that come along with it. But you might ask yourself the question, why would I need to get accredited? Well, actually, it's a really important part of the journey as we make these connections between the leisure industry and the healthcare professionals, and more people are being referred into the water. A healthcare professional will want to know, when they're talking to their client or patient, will want to know that they are suggesting that patient goes into a pool and has a great experience. And the way that they can do that is by then using the Swim England Pool Finder search tool and filtering for Water Wellbeing accredited sites local to that particular patient by putting their postcode in. What they can then happily do is say, I recommend you use the water to get active or for your rehab. But it's really important that that customer journey is really good, and we'll cover that off in a moment. But they have got the confidence that that customer or patient is not going to be turned away or not able to get in the water and not to have a great experience. Okay, the next slide, Ted, thank you. So let's have a look at the actual breakdown of what's involved with the accreditation. So stage 1, again, accessible and inclusive. So the first thing that will happen here is that as a pool or an operator, you'll think, well, what do I want to achieve from this? And we're thinking sort of wider around the funding that we're talking about today, is what do we want to happen here? And you set your own actions and your own timescales. Very much linking into your health goals, your health strategy with your particular community or your particular operator. Next slide then, please. Thank you. And the next thing is probably one of the most critical pieces of work that needs to be done as part of accreditation, and that is the environmental assessment audit. This is a free and downloadable document. I would recommend anybody do it for any leisure centre they have, even if there's no pool on there. Next slide, please. And what it basically, that doesn't format very well, apologies. So this is basically, again, free downloadable document that takes you through the customer journey from the bus stop or the car park into the leisure centre, through reception, down the corridor, into the changing rooms, toilets, showers, lockers, onto the side of the pool, into the water, and the reverse journey. But it looks at it through the eyes of someone with a long-term health condition or impairment. So this is not a legal document. And some of the questions on it may feel a bit strange, but it's been put together with experts, with consultants, but also people with lived experience of long-term health conditions, and specifically looking at some of the dementia elements of this. So by doing this and walking around the pool, and we'd always recommend, if you haven't done this already, is that it's done by somebody that either doesn't work at the pool, somebody quite senior that isn't there on a day-to-day basis, or in a perfect world, actually accompany someone with a long-term health condition on it. And it throws up some big barriers potentially, which it may do, which will prevent progressing at all. And one of those big things might be lack of a pool hoist. So that will need to be overcome. But it will also throw up some really small barriers that don't seem to be important. But when it comes to that entire customer journey for that participant, that swimmer, it might be something small, but it might be important to them to the extent that it will detract from the experience and mean they don't come back. And ultimately here, what we're wanting to do is open up pool space so that someone can start to become a regular participant, a regular member, and therefore improving their physical or mental health. So type of thing we're looking at here is little things like coat hooks. So when someone comes out of the changing rooms and has to walk along the side of the pool to get to the steps, are they able to have a robe on and therefore pop it onto the hook before they slip into the water? For somebody that's not been to a pool for many decades, if at all, they don't want to be walking around the side of the pool in their eyes semi-naked with everybody looking at them, if they could have a rope and just pop it on a coat hook. So that little tiny fix there, and there are lots and lots of little fixes, little barriers that would really improve that customer experience for someone particularly going to swimming for the first time. Next slide. So that's the building itself, and all of those identified barriers would then go on to the original action plan. We then look at the workforce itself. We know typically in leisure centres there are lots of new members of staff, quite young, maybe just out of school, college, university, etc. And they're on front-facing roles, but their confidence on interacting in a great way with someone with a long-term health condition, impairment, or even disability is very, very limited. They're very nervous about doing it. So next slide, please. We partnered up with Activity Alliance to create an enhanced set of e-learning. This is 60 to 90 minutes, and it can be done either on an individual basis, but it can be done on a group basis, and it's really, really useful to use as part of your monthly lifeguard training if you can all get around a screen. And it's, as I say, 60 to 90 minutes, and it just helps the staff understand what are the barriers that individuals with long-term health conditions and disabilities actually have, because they won't necessarily recognise those. Talks about their particular building and asks them to consider what those barriers might be. Talks about the communication and how you can engage with someone with a disability in a really enthusiastic, energetic way, the language that you use, the language that you shouldn't use, and to just make the whole experience for that participant really welcoming. Feedback from this particular e-learning was externally evaluated 2 years ago, and it was 95% plus fit for purpose in every measure. Really good. Not necessarily recommended for more senior experienced members of staff, particularly for those frontline staff. Next slide, thank you. And then the next piece around stage one this is really important. So if we let's think about somebody, maybe a 70-year-old lady who's just been to see her GP and has been told she does need a knee replacement, but it's going to be a long NHS waiting list. But the very best thing for that individual is to become active as best as she possibly can. If the GP knows the benefits of being in water, then that GP is going to recommend that individual goes to a local pool and gets in the water. Now, if it's something that individual hasn't done, they're going to have all these perceived barriers in their head. They're going to have some actual barriers in their head, possibly looking for every excuse under the sun not to go into the water. So what we do is we work with Activity Alliance again with some resources around setting up of the website and making it as easily accessible as possible. But we also look for information on that website that will start to break down the barriers that individual might have, whether it be actual or perceived barriers. The two biggest barriers for somebody in that kind of situation who hasn't been into a pool for a very long time at all, if at all, it's nothing to do with the water. It's actually, what can I wear and where do I put my handbag or my wallet? So is there somewhere on that website that gives the clothing policy that says you don't have to buy a swimming costume until you know you're going to like it or you want one, but actually you could just come in, if you prefer, in a pair of shorts and a t-shirt? Is there somewhere on the website that says we do have lockers, you'll need a £1 coin, or you'll need a padlock, or there's keys, the £1 coin is refundable? Just breaking down all of those barriers. The other important piece on the website is there an area somewhere on that website where, if I was that individual that was going to the pool, is there imagery that reflects the person I am? Is the language that I can relate to? Are there some FAQs that will address some of my worries? Or all you've got on that website is people in their early 20s sweating it out in the gym and a load of kids learning to swim on the swimming site? So is there an area that will help me, because I don't make that decision to go swimming at the pool, I make it by looking at the website or somebody coming to help me look at the website. Okay, next slide. Thank you. And then the final piece of stage 1 is just the collecting of basic data. So we look at the baseline figure, the number of people already taking part in this particular aquatic activity at the start, so that we can then start to track the outcomes at a later date. Now, it may be that you want to collect data for all of the aquatic activity going on at your pool, or you might just want to be collecting it for the specific activity that you are doing as part of the accreditation, as part of this project. So that's stage 1. Next slide. Lovely, thank you. Okay, so as I said, the accreditation is achieved by completing all of stage 1. But just to point out, in regards to the environmental assessment, there's certain things that have to be fixed, but not everything needs to be fixed, because some of these things will take a little bit longer to get rectified in terms of smaller barriers. So for accreditation purposes for Swim England, you only need to provide evidence from one of these 3 areas to get the accreditation. Many sites will run multiple sessions from these 3 and other sessions as well. So that's recognising all the great work that's already going on. As Emily said, not everybody's starting from scratch on this. But the 3 areas that are the options for the Swim England accreditation are exercise referral. So next slide, please. So we know there's some great GP referral programs working in lots of the pools that are on the call today, and that's fantastic. GP referral instructors, the qualifications that they take do not have an aquatic element on it. So typically you will have a GP referral program where the instructors themselves, unless they are avid swimmers and regularly get into the water themselves, they don't appreciate the benefits of being in the water, but more importantly, the difference of being in the water. So what we identified this gap about 6 years ago, and what we now run is a 2-day face-to-face course called Aquatic Activity for Health. And what that does is it takes GP level 3 referral instructors as a minimum, and we'll spend 2 days going through the theory and the practice of how you can recommend activity in the water for your customers, your patients, your clients. And what that does is it helps them understand the big differences by being in the water, but it actually enables them, those referral instructors, to widen the offering that they have for their clients and their patients, but also on many occasions enabling a participant to actually start being active a little bit earlier, because of the benefits of being in the water with the buoyancy, less risk of fall, as long as you're able to get into the water safely. So that has proved really, really popular. The individual comes back from the course with a series of exercise cards that can either be used just to signpost a participant to what exercises they'd like to do or could do, or they can run sessions. The other piece of resource that they also come away from that course with are 2 lesson plans. One is aqua circuits and one is walk in water. Now, acknowledging that those sort of sessions run all the time in pools, but these specific ones are for those with long-term health conditions. So they're tweaked and amended to recognise that situation. Next slide, please. Okay, so that's the GP referral instructor and the exercise referral. One of the other elements that can be used for accreditation is learn to swim. So if you have swim teachers at the pool, which you obviously will do, and you will have a number of teachers who are really passionate about teaching adults, and they may well have taken an additional adult CPD, whichever supplier and provider that would have been with. But there is limited knowledge around how do you teach an adult to swim who has a long-term health condition. And I say teach, it could just be that someone comes along and they want to improve their strokes. How do you as a teacher or a coach or a volunteer support that individual with a long-term health condition? So next slide, please. So we've got a series of resources that are available. The first ones are actually for anybody that wants to have a look and to print off or just read. And that's a series of health fact sheets that are located either on the Just Swim website or on our Swim England Health and Wellbeing Hub. That actually is a little bit old, that slide. Stroke has already been produced, and we've also now got MS and Parkinson's as well. So this is really useful for anybody that has been newly diagnosed, or anyone that's had this condition and it's managed, and they want to now start to swim. Next slide. And then in addition to that, for swim teachers, coaches and volunteers, we've got a 4-hour online but live CPD. Snappy title, I know, Introduction to Supporting Swimmers with Long-Term Health Conditions. However, what it does is it will take that swim teacher through the major health conditions, what the health condition is, how it impacts on the individual, how it's medically managed, which is really important for intervention medication on the side of the pool, but as importantly, how can that swim teacher amend the lesson plan, tweak the activities within that lesson plan to support and just adjust for that person or that individual, but actually then help them progress along their swimming journey. Feedback from this particular CPD is that even for most experienced teachers that teach adults, it gives them the confidence to be able to just push that participant, that swimmer, just that little bit harder, challenge them a little bit further, help a little bit harder, just make them increase their journey around the learning to swim and improving on their swim. Whereas perhaps before the teacher was a little bit hesitant because of the health condition. So by having the CPD, it then actually improves the whole experience. Next slide. And then the final piece of resource available for the swim teachers, and this is just available from our swim shop. It's just a hard copy, separate chapter of the Swim England Toolkit, but really, really useful in that if you're a teacher that has just somebody you've been teaching for quite some time, but they rock up one day and they've been newly diagnosed with a condition, or a teacher's covering someone else's classes and then discovers they've got somebody with arthritis in their class and they're just a little bit worried about what to do. The one thing you don't do is Google, so they're just able to go to wherever the teachers keep their equipment and just flick through this particular book and just understand what it is I need to consider as a swim teacher for this particular situation. Next slide. Okay, the third element for evidence is, I'm not going to say anything about this because I'm going to steal Suzanne's thunder, so I'm going to shut up at this point and say next slide. Okay, so those are the 3 areas that we look at for stage 2 for the Swim England accreditation, but conscious that this funding is available for pretty much any aquatic activity, opening up that water space. For those people that are on the accreditation journey with us, or have achieved the accreditation, twice a year, June and December, we run a health and wellbeing network call, and we bring everybody together. It's online, lasts about an hour and a half, and we choose a specific health condition to further educate the people that join the call on it. We will have an existing operator or pool owner that is working through the accreditation and shares their experiences with them. And we also hear about other projects. And we were delighted in June to hear from Leslie Rocher and Dr. Sarah Dean around their out swimming cancer sessions, which has been running for a good number of years now and has been incredibly successful. Delighted to say that they have made available all of the resources to share with you at no cost if it's something that you'd like to do. Next slide. And this is just an example of the resources that are available. And it's grown arms and legs, to be fair, but very, very successful. So we can provide you with some more details about that. Next slide. And then another charity, local charity actually from Romsey that we're working with. And Danny, I think you're on the line, so all credit to you for the work that's been done at Romsey Rapids for FEAR. But FEAR is a charity created by a wonderful lady called Kim Perkis. It's called Face Everything and Rise. And as you can see from the slide there, the charity is aimed at providing activities for children and young adults who are living with a central line, whether that be for artificial nutrition or any sort of treatment. So a central line can prove quite problematic if you're wanting to take that individual swimming, to the extent that some children with artificial nutrition never go swimming. And therefore the families never go swimming because they can't go without the child, quite clearly. But Kim has worked with an external company, and they now have dry suits, and you'll see the lovely young lady on the right hand side has got a dry suit on, which enables that individual to get into the water even though they've got a central line in. Thanks to Places Leisure, Kim has been running all sorts of activities, particularly swimming sessions for families in this situation out of Romsey Rapids. But Kim wants to expand that now, and is now looking for anyone that's willing or keen to provide one-to-one swimming lessons for these individuals and these children, so that they can then ultimately start on mainstream swimming lessons, which means that they can then start their swimming journey, because at the moment they're loving the activities that are taking place, as you'll see from that central photo, but actually they want to start on that swimming journey. Next slide. A couple of other bits that Swim England will be able to support you around this whole project is, we know that if we're looking to enhance some of the swim teaching activities, attracting and sometimes keeping swim teachers is an incredibly big challenge for pool owners. Next slide, please. So we run something called the Recruitment Academy, where basically Swim England do the work for you. So we basically advertise, we take in the applications, we do a meet and greet, we do very short interviews, and then we will shortlist and then provide the operator with that shortlist. From a potential teacher's perspective, they pay a nominal fee. What then happens once that individual starts with the operator will then cover the costs of the level 1 and level 2 qualification. For next year, it'll just be the new level 2 one. But in the meantime, that potential teacher does a amount of volunteering hours teaching swimming, which is in effect payback for the cost of the training. So that's, if anyone's interested, we can support around that, because I know the big challenge here will be, I'd love to do more adult learn to swims, but I haven't got enough teachers. Next slide, please. And just very, very quickly around this, I know Suzanne's doing a little bit of a session at the moment around pool programming, which is also important. Next slide. But we've got a local business engagement manager, Tom Blakely, that he lives in Basingstoke. He covers the southeast of England, and he's always there just to support around any pool schematics and programming that you might find useful. Next slide. I promise there's only a few more to go. Stage 3 then happened. The accreditation then starts 3 to 6 months down the line, and what we're looking for that is that just a small amount of evidence which will show how well this has gone and the challenges, and I'll cover that off in a later session on the call today. Next slide, please. And two more resources that have absolutely no cost attached to them whatsoever, but will help you on this journey. Connecting with the health world, broadening your health offers, and working more locally with healthcare professionals. So following some external consultancy work that was done 2019-2020, we worked with many healthcare professionals to try and understand why it was that not all healthcare professionals were referring their patients into the water or recommending being into the water. And fundamentally, the answer is they didn't appreciate the benefits of being in water. So we created and produced 3 separate videos, which are basically aimed at, called Swimming as Medicine, aimed at healthcare professionals, but it's healthcare professionals in the video talking about their patients. So the first one was a GP talking about one of his particular patients and the journey that patient had been on. The second one is a physiotherapist who runs an MS session in a local pool. And then the third one was Royal College of Nursing. We have a particular nurse who introduces 3 of her patients who have started swimming, who share how their lives have been changed as a result of it. As part of this project, we'll provide all of those 3 videos absolutely free. Please use them. They're aimed at they're out on the public media anyway, but they're used specifically really in your conversations with healthcare professionals. Next slide, please. And then the very final piece is we worked with the University of Nottingham. So a part of this whole helping healthcare professionals understand why is it different being in the water. We produced a 20-minute e-learning. It's It's located on the NHS learning platform, so anyone that's on that, so 2.2 million people, I think, on there, can use this e-learning, but we've got a specific link so that anybody can use it. And it literally, why does the body react different in water, and therefore why is it helpful for someone to be in the water? And again, you'll get the link for this, and my recommendation is everybody at any leisure centre should just quickly do that learning to try and understand why it's different. And it really helps in conversations with, say, somebody on reception who can see someone who's like a bit hesitant about coming into the water, and they can talk confidently about how you're going to feel when you've been in the water. So that, again, we can provide the link for that. Next slide. I think that's the last slide. Okay, so that is the accreditation. I think we've probably got a couple of minutes. Is there any questions from anyone? Don't think there's anything in the chat. Is there, Emily? No. No, that's it then. Thank you.
Emily, you're on mute if you're talking to us. Sorry, I saw your mouth moving.
Sorry, I was, yeah. People are welcome to ask questions at this stage, but I would encourage you to write your question down, hold it, because it may come up. We've got some other conversations to be had this afternoon, and we may cover and go into that a bit more broadly. So we'll save those minutes up, Ali, and we'll bring them towards the end so that people do have questions at that stage that they can share. Suzanne, I'm going to allow you to, could you share your slides now?
Yeah,
thank you.
Absolutely. Can you see it?
Yes.
Okay, fantastic. Just before I launch in, Ali mentioned the Recruitment Academy. I guess I could introduce myself. My name is Suzanne. I'm the COO of Good Boost. I used to work as the head of aquatics and sports for Parkwood Leisure. I cannot speak highly enough of that Recruitment Academy. It's an unbelievable concept coming out of Swim England. So anyone that is struggling for swim instructors, it's absolutely the right way forward. Great. Thank you so much for having me on. So I thought today what I would do is kind of give everyone a baseline information about what is Good Boost in case you've never come across us before. I think some of you on the call may be delivering us in your leisure center, but I'll kind of give a wide overview of that. And then later on, I'll do a bit of a presentation around pool programming, more because that's a massive passion of mine, ironically. So Good Boost has been around since 2018. It got started by our CEO, Ben Wilkin. He was doing a PhD dissertation on making hydrotherapy water accessible to the mass public, especially with the quantities of hydrotherapy pools closing down. And he saw the gap in the market to be used in pools. So he started going off on that, but was actually asked to have some money invested into it and see if he could make a commercial business out of it. So we are a social enterprise. We started off in aqua rehab specifically. We've branched off since then into aqua fitness, aquanatal, and land. We're now in community, and we've got some digital outreach as well. I'm going to try and keep it compact to what this project is funding and the purpose of this project, but by all means, if you're interested in the other things we do, get in touch. We partnered with Swim England nearly at the beginning. In fact, it's how I learnt about Good Boost, was because Swim England brought us together. And you can, hopefully you'll see throughout this presentation how much it marries up with that Water Wellbeing accreditation, because it really is a perfect partnership. So our Good Boost values are really important to us. We show them at all of our meetings because we really do live by it both internally and externally. So we tend to look for partners who have similar values for us. The key ones to really pick off here is the fact that we are human and experience centered. And what that means is we believe heavily in co-design. So everything that we design in our organization takes every key stakeholder into every development phase of that. So that means that we've spoken extensively to leisure centers to make sure that what we're doing is right for them and solving a problem. We speak to individuals who are a regular user base, so usually those over the age of 65, making sure that those who sometimes have a tech fear feel comfortable and confident with the user design and how they're using our equipment. And we're constantly looking to change and shape and lead the way of how tech can be embedded to support as a tool health well-being along the way. So I'll just show a really quick video, hopefully. Can you still see my screen? Did it move off to a video?
Not yet.
This is where I use Google.
There you go. It's popped up now.
It's popped up. Can you see someone? So I'm going to go full screen, and I'm hoping you're going to be able to hear the audio. If you can't, I'll just send around the slides after and you guys can watch it for yourself. But this nicely cues up what Good Boost is.
And it's tailored to each of us. It's really good to have a visual of the movement, ask you lots of questions, and you can see how your answers have affected, you know, what comes out in terms of the suggestions for exercises.
I'd say I don't know what I'd do without Good Boost. I went to the physio at Shakespeare Road. They told me the pain in my hip, they couldn't do anything for me because it's due to the stroke. I was to have operation in December, just before Christmas. And when I went in, I was all prepped and everything. And when they examined me, they said that I didn't need to have the op. They cancelled the operation. I didn't have it done that day at all.
I think leisure centres are perfect for this service because they're right in the heart of the community. People have access to them, everyone knows where they are.
Having a service like Good Boost that we can put into the community is a significant step towards reducing some of these health inequalities. It stopped making me feel isolated. That was a big win for a start, the normalisation of my condition. And then more importantly, be on top of the condition before it's on top of me.
Great. That just gives you a bit of context behind what exactly we are. Sometimes it's hard to actually visualize how we operate Good Boost. So we are an accredited system. So we are a class 1 medical device. We have something called DTEC certification, which is a certification that the NHS gives off to medical devices that are technology. And then we also have an ORCA rating of 89%. ORCA, again, is a medical app approval that sits with a ton of physicians in the UK, but also worldwide to evaluate if it's a safe environment for GPs to be able to refer on. And those medical accreditations are really important for when we speak to our GPs and our clinicians to make sure it gives them that confidence to return onto the program. So we do deliver health and well-being programs without the need of a physio or a level 3-4 instructor. We do our own training. You don't need any prerequisite in order to come onto this. What I want you to take away from this is if you do have a GP referral program, this is not in competition. This is absolutely able to run alongside of those GP referral programs because they quite often have large wait lists. They quite often tend to be condition specific. So quite often what you'll find is individuals who are with long-term health conditions who are referred on and make the call to come to you, they're at a point in their journey where they're at their most active in order to do that. They're wanting to do that. There's a mental barrier. If you put them on a wait list for 2 to 3 months to get into that GP referral program, when you contact them again, there's a good chance that they are no longer wanting to come onto it because mentally they're no longer in that proactive state. So it's really, really, really important that we alter and change the way that we have that customer journey, as Ali kind of said, towards individuals with long-term health conditions, and we support them when it's right for them. So Good Boost allows individuals to go on to Good Boost before going on to those GP referral programs. And it also allows you to become condition condition centric on how you're doing those GP referrals, because those classes often become overloaded, and there are some conditions that maybe they could just go on to Good Boost and then go on to other areas within your facility, rather than using your GP referral staff's time, which is incredibly precious and needs to be reserved to service the communities that they need to access. So we're evidence-based service. I'll talk you through our case study, or not our case, our published peer-reviewed paper that's just come out this year. We've had lots of industry awards, and then we do our own certified training in kind of bite-sized modules. We also offer you robust amount of reporting, so you can report back to your head office, or you can report back to the councils, as well as Energise Me will be able to have access to that information. So we partner with loads of organizations, most, if not all, the national organizations worldwide, or not worldwide, we are worldwide, but I mean in the UK, as well as NHS partnerships. We do have multiple case studies. These are just a few of the examples, but we have tons, and we're able to pull upon those case studies. So if you do feel like you're coming across any barriers or challenges, we've probably faced it. So just communicate with that rather than just fighting against it. We're in about 250 locations and aiming to be at 310 by the end of this year. So one of the important takeaways is that there's been a huge shift in the industry, as I'm sure you're all aware, after COVID. Before COVID, the vast majority of the leisure centres were positioned on how many gym members they could get through the door and how many swim lessons they could get. After COVID, the NHS was so bombarded with individuals because there was such a backlog of wait lists on things like surgeries and GPs and referrals. The leisure sector quite rightly put up their hands and said, we can deal with this, we can take this on. And we've seen an incredible shift to that. And in that, we've seen published resources in the active wellbeing reports and Lord Dursey saying that the leisure centres is right for individuals. And even when you start to survey our members, 55% of them say that they come to leisure centres to manage health conditions. So what exactly are we? We are an AI personalized therapeutic aquatic program. So individuals, we tend to give leisure centres, or they purchase, but in this case, they're going to be paid as part of the funding, 10 tablets to deliver class or individual sessions within your leisure facility. An individual would come in and they'd fill out a questionnaire with their health details and any particular musculoskeletal conditions that they will have. Before every session, it will then go through about 4 or 5 questions to just ask you things about that day. We know that individuals with long-term health conditions, their day-to-day changes massively. Someone might feel really strong and confident and with reduced amount of pain one day, and then have a condition flare up and feel severe amount of pain the next, which means that we need to adapt our algorithm according to what they look like that day. So we ask them about how much energy they have, any pain they've felt in the past 24 hours, how their sleep was, and whether they want a session easier, similar, or harder than the last time. All of that goes through our algorithm or our AI to create a program that's bespoke to that individual and to that condition. When I talk about AI, a lot of people get quite nervous. We're not a generative AI. We don't do self-learning within our AI. I don't actually believe we'd be able to have our medical level 1 classification if we did do that type of AI, because there's too much contingencies. So the way that I like to describe our AI is, I want you to think of it like a tree. So in the trunk of the tree, you're putting in all that base information that gives you everything that you need to go. And then what it does is go down different branches. And the branches our clinicians make. So they say, if you have this condition, then you should be doing these exercises here. And then based on the feedback that the individual puts into it before and after the sessions, it will take them down different branches and progress them. But the reason why this works so well is because all the exercises are based on that individual user. So it is like having a physiotherapist one-on-one in a class setting. The class setting is really important because it brings that socialization element. So we usually have a facilitator on pool deck, and that facilitator's role is really just to encourage individuals to keep going, understanding those participant stories, start helping facilitate connections, because a lot of these individuals live in social isolation. So within our program, they're all on bespoke rugged tablets. These are our old tablets. We've got brand new tablets, actually. We manufacture them ourselves. So they are water resistant. What that means is they're splash proof. You can get water on it. Where we fall down, and don't laugh when I say this because it happens, is if you put the tablets in the water, take them out and immediately charge them, they do melt. So you obviously have to dry them out before you charge them, but that's electricity faults, not ours. And they're also drop proof as well, and shatterproof. The new tablets are a bit bigger too, so the screens are a little bit larger, which was feedback that we had from our participants. They wanted it a bit stronger. So we've got multiple environments within our hub. One of the environments that we have within our hub is called the Aqua or Goal Focus. The Aqua Goal Focus is fitness, essentially. So it then breaks down to whether you want to do balance and coordination, which is really good for fall risks. You can do strength, you can do cardio, you can do flexibility. And then the aqua body region focus, that's really our rehab element of our aqua program. So then that goes into focused on joints rehab and prehab. So hips, knee, lower back, shoulders. And then we also have, which isn't on here, is we've got expertly designed sessions. So those are sessions designed by our clinicians, and they're just quick. They're not AI. They're just quick sessions that individuals can just click on if they don't want to go through the registration and they want to log in quickly. And then we also have Aquanatal. And then Aquanatal has each one of those elements in it. So Aquanatal has the rehabilitation for MSK issues. A lot of mothers, especially, and I really, being a woman, hate this word, but geriatric pregnancies, which is like 30, 35, like it's quite young. They end up with a higher rate of MSK issues. So we can do prehab and rehab through there, as well as all the fitness elements of it. And you don't need any prior physical activity experience in order to come and do these programs. They're gentle enough to be able to facilitate to someone who's brand new into physical activity. And then we also do have land space, which you will all have access to as well, even though this is mostly focused around water. So our land-based exercises, again, go through a similar process, and any learning in the AI and the aquatic side actually gets transferred over into the land-based and the recommended exercises that they have as well. The individual gets to choose how they train. So we've got lying down, standing supported, and sitting. And we also have a few pieces of equipment that you would be easily to find in a studio. And then it takes them through this program as well. And again, we've got both goal focus, that being whether they want to do balance and coordination, strength, they want to do core, they want to do flexibility. And then we've also got the body region focus as well. Which is the rehabilitation. And it's a really nice stepping stone from one to the other. I think the biggest thing that Good Boost want to do is we want to support users in using the pool in different ways, and we want to support users in also using your facility in different ways. We never want to keep people on Good Boost. We want to use it as a stepping stone to then go off and do other things within your facility and continue on creating a healthy journey for them. And then the last bit that we do offer is the community outreach groups as well. So this is where we're seeing leisure center staff go into community spaces. We're seeing councils starting to require this of leisure centers, especially when those leisure centers are coming up for bid. So this looks like going into libraries, into care homes, into any places of worship and community halls. What we are seeing is a really lovely bridge to go from, to bring these tablets into the communities, get people a little bit more confident closer to their homes, and then signposting into the facility. And we are seeing individuals going from these community settings then into your pools and then throughout the rest of the facilities. And then we offer water wellbeing support and peer support. We do have nutrition coming in the later part of next year. We've got comorbidity, which is being embedded into our products. And we do have additional training. One of the key things I would recommend, we ran something with UK Active called the MSK Hubs. The MSK Hubs went into 100 facilities nationwide. For me, the biggest win was community chats. Scheduling on a time before your sessions, whether it's a Good Boost session or it's a Health Well Swim, whatever it is, where individuals can come and have a coffee and have a conversation, is a really good way to break down barriers for individuals who are really nervous about coming into your facilities. And it creates a community feel. I think what you'll start to find is the more individuals that you get referred into your centers, the more narrative you're going to hear of social isolation. This is the only time I talk to other people. This is the only community I have. And that is where we as the leisure sector are so well situated to address that social isolation, but giving them a place to be able to come in and do that is really important. We also create dashboarding for all of you. We've actually just changed our dashboarding, so I'm really excited to announce that you guys will have the Wellbeing model, which is used by the National Treasury. You will have access to area of deprivation, so we'll be able to tell you what percentage you'll be reaching from areas of deprivation. We'll also be able to tell you your ONS4 score as well, which is widely used within the NHS. And then we do things like how many sessions they've done, how many unique users, how many repeat users. We give you demographic information as well. We give you condition information, and then pain and functionality increase scores, which is really good. Why this is important and why we give you so much data is because you need to talk to so many different stakeholders. You're going to be talking to the councils to evidence your success. You may be looking at leveraging more funding, and that's where the wellbeing model comes in as well. You're going to be talking to GP referrals. So we almost give you those different data stories so that you can tailor your reports depending on who you're doing, as well as a return on investment, so that if you are coming from a major operator, you have to report up to a board. We have that as well for you. We do all of our training. Again, this is something that I'm really excited is about to change. So we're working with Future Fit to support us on our training journey. And more is going to be coming into it. We're going to have job role function training. So stuff for receptionists versus your facilitators and your center managers, and those managing the program itself. And then we've also brought things like some of the basics and fundamentals of health coaching into our facilitator training. And then we've got lightning learnings if you want to go in depth about any of that. So again, understanding, you know, why the water is so good, why this is the perfect place to start. So just a little bit about kind of the populations on average who we support. So the average age is around 59. We tend to get those with a higher BMI. We do tend to get more female than male. Sometimes I think that's the way we market ourselves, and men can be a little bit harder to reach. So I'll talk through marketing in a second, but I would suggest putting men on your marketing. 41% are non-swimmers are low confidence. That's really key because that feeds into kind of what Ali said in terms of pathways, because it's a really good place to start with us and then moving on to adult learn to swim so they can start traveling and getting cardio using swimming as a metric. Most have additional health conditions, which is why we're moving into comorbidity, and 65% register as kind of inactive. From a health impact point of view, we do report on this. So we look at pain, function, and quality of life. Those are the three things that feed into three of the four things that feed into the ONS4 score. So we do see, you know, on the pain specific function scale, we do see an improvement in the gross majority of our participants, and we do see an improvement after 24 hours, which is cohesive to exercising in water. You tend to, because of the compression elements of it and the fact that it's moving swelling out of the area. But the one I always find quite interesting is the quality of life, because for some of these individuals, they may never get past the pain, they may never get past, you know, their limitations, but the quality of life is something that if they've had an improvement in their quality of life, that's the one that you're hitting, you're supporting people in their day to day. So 62% saw an improvement in their daily life after 12 weeks. From a social value return, on average, for every £1 invested, you get £5.30. So those of you that work with For Global, we worked with For Global off the MSK Hub project to understand what our social value return is. Moving forward, we're calculating our own well-being models. So the social value that we produce in our dashboards might be a little bit different for if you're using moving communities. However, we can have chats about why those are different. I have no idea where I am for time, Emily. So I'll just, if I need to speed up, just kind of make a sign.
I would say that you've probably got about 5 minutes left on this section.
That's probably good. Yeah, I'm about there. Look, I can send around this study, but we're really proud of this study. It is the largest worldwide to date. We had 4,429 participants, and we looked at a comparative study against the NHS physiotherapists. 47% of our users achieved a clinically meaningful, significant improvement in physical function, which is higher than NHS physiotherapist interventions. And over 65% reported a positive global improvement. I guess and we have created marketing for those who are going to take out Good Boost, so you can bring this to physicians in a way that will be meaningful to them. But those using Good Boost versus 6 NHS physiotherapist section, essentially we achieved the exact same, if not better results than the physiotherapist, and it proved to be a cost savings of £168 per person to the NHS by using Good Boost. That is a very powerful statement to give to clinicians. From a support point of view, what we do, again, because I come from a leisure operator background, I've worked within the leisure industry for 20 years. When I moved into this company, it was really important to build out our support for the delivery of this with an operator's hat on, not a supplier's hat on. We do have the Ops Hub, which is an online digital resource and has both of our training and all of our resource. It's accessible to you at any time. If you have someone who's called in sick, who's your facilitator, you can train someone else that day in order to be a facilitator. And in fact, we're about to create new training that's like a lightning learning for someone to be able to do it in an hour and just deliver a session. And it also includes all of the resources that you could want. And that includes letters to GPs, that includes marketing, that includes case study templates, absolutely anything you may need. We also supply you with marketing. So we do 6 core marketing when you launch, but we also this year are launching a marketing calendar with open-ended templates so you can tailor them in accordance to your brand guidelines, but we'll have all of the messaging and any imagery around it that you may want. As well, it has prompts and questions for your staff to be able to ask participants to then get the messages out from your participants to put on social media that backs the campaign as well. We do quarterly learning shares where we allow you to come on and discuss what your challenges are and what's going really well to then share around best practice and learning. We also invite individuals to come on and present on that. Our delivery team has regular touch points with your facilities. You, of course, have access to the dashboards and tech support.
Seem to have lost Suzanne there. Hopefully it's not just me. Just
No,
give
she
her a
was frozen
second.
for me as well, Emily. I was just
Yeah.
wondering whether everybody else had frozen. I think we all tend to go still, don't we, when somebody else freezes?
give people a moment to come back in, but sort of there. I think she may have left. Suzanne, have you come back in? I can see you on the call, but not sure if you're able to hear us. There we go. I can see you again now. You're on mute though. Just to...
Sorry, everyone. I pressed spacebar and it shut everything down. That's so weird. That's never happened to me before. Sorry. Pro Insight. We have a partnership. I'll share my screen as I talk. We have a partnership with Pro Insight. Pro Insight do mystery shops. The reason that we do it is not to call anyone else. We use it to look at our own training shortfalls. So where have we not supported the centre enough for them to be able to move these things forward? Some of you may use Pro Insight for other areas within your business. They're quite prominent. I will stay away from the spacebar. So Give Boost costs. So the first 6 months with the funding will be free, and then the ongoing costs are as posted. So that's the £245 as a subscription cost per month, and then the tablets would be gifted to you as a part of this trial, I believe, as well as the onboarding costs. So you'd be looking after the 6 months of £245. It's worth noting, some of you who might be part of major operators, we do have fixed term contracts with them. So it's worth having conversations with us if you're with any of the major operators. In terms of a return on investment, which actually is really important from a sustainability point of view, you can evidence the return on investment. Essentially, if you put 3 classes on and fill them out with 10 individuals, it will pay for itself. And in fact, I think depending on what your staffing costs are, you tend to turn a profit of £13,000 per year. The whole purpose of this as well, the return on investment, is that you're targeting a different demographic of individual. So on average, in the leisure industry, customer acquisition cost is around £137 per person. We just have a case study from Parkwood. They did Facebook, social media, sponsored posts, they ended up having a huge amount of self-referrals off of the back of that campaign. I think it ended up costing 76 pence per person. And it was really cute because there was quite a lot of the people that just didn't understand sponsored posting. They're like, I don't know how I ended here, but I'm here now. And we also know that we create stickier members. So every one good boost member, they end up going on to do 3.7 classes in other areas within your facility. And East Riding Leisure for us actually signed and tracked their membership, and they found that 93% of Good Boost users have signed up to a membership or started different classes. So I know that this is always an awkward element to talk about, but sometimes when you have to build up the case study for sustainability and you have to evidence why, a return on investment is part of the equation. We also have business modeling that I can support you, my team can support you to create that business modeling to evidence the success following that. Yeah, that is it. Was that 5 minutes dead on?
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Lots and lots of information there, and it is just an overview in that sort of half an hour is a really quick amount of time to go in. So if you haven't explored Good Boost in a lot of detail previously, then there are loads of resources on their website, and we will make sure that you get links to all of that so you can look in more detail around those business cases, around those customer experiences, all of those sorts of things. And if you want to link up with maybe a local organisation who are delivering Good Boost and can sort of, you know, talk in more details about their sort of journey with the program, then we can look to connect you. So just let us know what you need from that point of view. So I'm going to welcome in, and I'm going to share my screen, Angela Thompson, who is an inclusion specialist working in Gosport. Angela, I don't know if you've seen my email, but I can only apologise. I amended your slides because I couldn't access them. So I've reworked it, and I really, really hope that the information that's reflects what you would like to say today. So bear with me and I will share. There we go. Wonderful.
Okay.
Over
oh, wow.
to you.
Yeah, you kind of have changed it, haven't you? So I'll have to take a minute, if okay, to adjust to what you've done.
There is a second one. Let me show it to you, Angela, so you know what is coming. I can do that, which goes into those different elements of the programme. So apologies.
No, please don't apologise. That's absolutely fine. Okay, so would you like me to just talk through what what we're actually trying to achieve at centre? So just briefly a little bit about me. I'm the inclusion specialist there, and I've been there now about 15 months, something like that. And my role is to ensure that anybody who wants to come into the centre and be part of an activity or to join the sessions is able to do so. So I will look at each individual and create individual programs for each of those people in the way that is needed. I will just add that I am autistic myself, so this is why this has thrown me off slightly, but we'll get through it. So first of all, I think one of the things that was my primary study at university is looking at the environment and how we can adapt the environment to support with sensory perception, because that is not just for autistic people, but for a lot of other people as well. It can be a major barrier, if you like, to somebody actually coming into the centre. And I think we had a bit earlier on about the walkthrough from coming to the centre right through to how to get to the changing rooms and how everything's done. And that's really crucial. So we've done and are doing a lot of work on how we can adapt the environment with sensory perception. So that might be having no music or music much lower lights as far as we are able to do. And the really important thing is I want to listen to people that come in and tell me what it is that they find uncomfortable about that environment, or how we might be able to make some adaptations to that. And then another really important element is the communication. So this is going to, you know, the programs that I can put in place for people or talk to people about is going to allow them to be able to communicate more effectively. So I think one of my key roles is to find that person's voice, if that makes sense, because not everybody chooses or can communicate through verbal communication. So one of my jobs will be to say, well, how can we communicate with this person? What's the best way to be able to do that, so that they can tell us about things that they like about the centre, or that they would like change. So again, that's another program that when people come in initially, they might have a meeting with me, and we can have a look at how we can make their communication more effective through different methods, or how we might record that. And then behaviour, changes that can be implemented to support both the person and the staff, because I'm very aware that sometimes staff might find somebody's behaviour difficult or unexpected. So it's about training, which is a key element of what I will be doing. I do in my role is to train staff and to again support people with behaviour. And again, a program can be put in place, because I have a specialism in functional analysis of behaviour. So all of those elements brought together can hopefully create what a better expression, a package for that individual person. So each person, if they wish to do so and it's felt that it's needed, will get an individualized program and documentation that I've created to go with that. So I was quite interested in the the environment journey through the centre. I think that was before, because I've also created an environmental checklist which we can look at, so that for each person we can look at that checklist and see how we can adapt where we can. So there will be access to the documentation to support all of the above. So there will be lots of different elements. So communication passport, environmental checklist, sensory profile, all sorts of different elements that will feed into each person. And there will be I will provide ongoing support and refresher training for staff where it's needed. So each year people will come back and have a refresher. So what my training involves is we're listing some basic facts about autistic children and adults, not always known, and I can speak as an expert by experience, if you like, as to what some of that might be. We'll explore 4 key areas where differences may be experienced and some strategies that may help. So I can't provide a cure-all, but what I can do is say, let's have a look at some strategies around that. And I can define the correct terminology, so that what the autistic community terminology that they like, rather than terminology that's used that they might not like. So the 4 areas will be thinking. So in the thinking, it will highlight some differences in how autistic children and adults think, explore some positive and negative aspects of thinking styles and ways of supporting these differences. Then communication. So autistic communication, and there is a difference. People communicate in different ways, different methods of communication, from signing through to talking mats to graphic facilitation. There's so many different methods that I have available that we can use. How language development is different or may not develop at all, and understanding autistic communication. So that's really important to kind of get that across. Then social interaction, how autistic children and adults may form relationships, and usually that will be in a different way. So if we're looking at staff wanting to form relationships with the children or the adults coming in, we might have to approach that differently. They're not going to be the, hi, how are you? Let's do this, let's do that sort of thing. So again, we will look at that and explore the contribution that social stories can make. So that gives a pointer to how maybe things are done and how things happen in a social environment. And again, I've tripped myself up many times in social events. And some strategies for when at a social event. So talking about when coming into the swimming pool, what can we do to make that better? Looking at sensory, which was the 4th characteristic, is explaining the impact that the environment can have on sensitivities. And it might be that the adult loves to come swimming, really loves it, but can't get through the door because the smell is overwhelming, or different things, even though they want to do that activity. And then list and explain the 8 senses, because we have 8 known senses at the moment, and how can these sensory needs be supported. And then there will be an extra session around defining behaviour and what people may think challenging behaviour is, because most people will see that as a physical behaviour, and it isn't always. Explore some factors that may lead to challenging behaviour. List the phases leading up to a behaviour crisis. Identify some simple measures aimed at reducing challenging behaviour, and identify some simple measures aimed at reducing. Oh, you've got that twice. Got that in there twice. Yeah, so it's very important that from a supporting a staff perspective, that we do have a session around behaviour and what I can do to support staff, as well as supporting the child, young person or adult. So that's kind of where the training is. If anybody's got any questions or anything they would like to ask about that, more than happy to take questions. Or
Thank you, Angela. That was really good. And apologies again for
not at all
on the fly there. I wanted to add something in to
yes.
support your conversation, and I couldn't access those. So well done for taking it on the fly there. I think I was really keen to get you in to share something, one that is working really well locally. It's really taking on that principle of what is really strong, and also how we share that learning across to other organisations. And this is, I guess, for all of our pools, really, this is just an example of some work that could be done in your spaces. There is some training and development, whether that's work that you can do with Angela, or whether if this is an sort of a cohort of individuals that you're looking at creating a new offer for. There are other offers out there, national offers that we can connect with, and it's really just an example of starting to think of, when you look at who you are wanting to bring into your spaces, who you're trying to engage, is starting to look at what programs are out there, what learning do you need to connect with, and thinking very broadly about that. Yes, we've got some big national offers, but there's also some smaller resources, some that Ali covered earlier. See this great example that Angela has here, and Angela has agreed to work with pools outside her role within that she has at Gosport as well. So do sort of be really mindful of those wide opportunities that we can think about using when considering this aquatic offer that we're going on. I'm going to move us on.
Sorry, can I just very quickly say, I think one of the reasons I think is really quite successful, or very successful, is that parents like a point of contact with somebody that they can personally speak to, personally come to, and come back to if they need to. I think that's a key element as well, is having that personal touch. Parents really like that. Yeah.
Thank you so much for joining and being part of this conversation. I'm going to welcome Sophie Button to join us. Sophie is the head of Insight Evaluation and Workforce for Energise Me, and really, when we're going through this programme and we're considering putting together our application to draw down this grant funding for the pools, we want to encourage you to think about the use of data and how you can use that to form part of your application. So Sophie, over to you.
Thanks, Emily. Thanks for having me, everybody. And I feel a bit fortunate, actually. I've only got one slide in comparison to everybody else's much lengthier presentations. But I think, I mean, to be honest, I'll be preaching to the choir here in the context of it's very rare these days that you'll be asked to put in an application for funding where insight or information that's available to you is not required in some way, shape or form. So it's just an opportunity just to reflag that there will be an expectation in relation to this programme, but you've got data available to you in many forms and sources, and here's just an example of a few that you can use. So we'll effectively be looking for people to help us understand what you know about the target audience, and also the information that you have to support your application. So if you've crowdsourced content to support your data and insight, who have you spoken to? And what did you ask, and how did people respond? So you've got user groups within the centres, you've got non-user groups, and I'm not sure how many of you do have non-user group forums. So I know a number of leisure providers not only look at who comes through the door, but are also starting to observe who doesn't. So then therefore shaping their offers to suit not those that just use the centre, but also those non-users. So have a think about how you can use the people that you've already got relationships with, or potential focus groups that you could have contact with. Have you had a look at any of the data sources that are available? So again, multiple data sources available, either information you're collecting in-house within your leisure provider, but also publicly available information through organisations like Sport England and the Active Lives survey. So if you're a leisure provider and you're the main contracted leisure provider by the local authority, there's every chance that you are connected to the Moving Communities tool. Please do go and have conversations with colleagues internally, see what that Moving Communities data is telling you about the people that are currently using your facility, what what the footfall is, because it also helps you understand how far people are prepared to travel to your offer. So do have a chat with colleagues and just have a look. We're not looking for huge amounts of detail here. It's just something that gives confidence that your application is data, learning and insight informed. And then if you're focusing on a specific long-term health condition, who has helped you inform your decision? So have you spoken to other networks or colleagues that you're working with across the system? So it might be that you've had a dialogue with the social prescriber or a health and wellbeing coach, and they've said, actually, we're seeing a number of people coming in talking about musculoskeletal challenges, and we're trying to signpost them through to the leisure centre. So again, if your insight and data is informed by conversations you've had within your networks, please play that through within the application process. And anything that you've done in the insight gathering stage will then support your storytelling as you develop the work. So if you've looked to work with a certain demographic group with a certain health condition, then that helps you follow your story through from an evaluation perspective. So what have you observed about the changes you've seen in not only the beneficiaries or the participants, but in the relationships you've built through the system with other organisations or people like social prescribers, and then again, this supports the narrative that you tell when it comes to the evaluation part of the process. Hopefully, Emily, that was what you're after. If anybody's got any questions, then please do fire them out.
That was perfect, Sophie. Thank you. And you've managed to claw back some time for me, so I'm really appreciative of that.
Win-win.
I think, like you say, is that this is a part of what people would expect if you are even internally looking to make some changes, that there is, that data and insight that will need to go through in order to inform that programming. So it's not a huge amount. And when you do come to putting in an application to draw down some of this grant funding, it isn't huge amounts of information that we're looking for. We're just after that understanding that you have gone out, you have looked at your data, you have got an understanding of what your community want and need to help inform what's going forward. And that's really to help us understand whether this is going to be successful. I think we always say that we need to make sure that it is it is community informed, the work that we do. So we will sort of expect some of that information, but it's not huge amounts. So don't be overwhelmed with thinking that you need to produce a lot of insight and data to go alongside this application. Wonderful. I have got probably 3 things left on my agenda, and I want to make sure that we have enough time for questions and for me to sum up so we know where everybody is left or what their next steps are. So I'm going to invite Suzanne to come back in, and she's going to share some information about programming at this stage. Do you want to share your own slides?
I was going to say, why don't I just talk everyone through this rather than share the slides to speed it up a bit so you can gain some time back. But one of the things I wanted to talk to everybody about, or when we were approached by Energise Me about this, was the pool programming. And the reason why is because probably the number one thing we hear back from leisure centres when we start to engage with them is that they're full. They've got no space in their pool programming. Working as kind of the head of aquatics for the 7 years that I did that, I think it's just reshaping how we're looking at our pools. And I think that we quite often program our pools in a really traditional way. And I can probably guarantee that I can go to most pools in this country and know that there's an early morning swim. There's a swim club first, there's an early morning swim, you then maybe have a mum and tot swim, you then have aquafit, you have schools in, you have a lunchtime lane swim, you've got school swims in, you've got learn to swim in, and then you maybe have an evening lane swim or casual swim, and on the weekends you have casual swim with potentially an inflatable. And if I'm heading home to any of you and you're going, yeah, that sounds like a lot of our pool programming, we're just programming it in the way because traditionally we always have, and what we haven't done is gone out to the communities that we're living in and finding out how people want to access our pools. So what I would challenge you to do is to kind of reshape those things. And some of the things you can do around that is, and look, I know that some of you are thinking, but my councils have written in how our schedules have to be within, and we have to have a certain amount of hours for public swim or lane swim or those types of things. You can go back to your councils to adjust that, because what they want to do is get in a wider population swimming. If you've got a lane swim, if you've got 6 people on in that lane swim, that's 6 people don't need a 25-meter pool. And I actually just did a talk on this at Free Flow, and I was at the London Aquatic Centre, and I wanted to use them as an example, and I was so pleased to see lunchtime swim, 50-meter pool. There was 12 people swimming in the pool, each in their own lane. People do not need their own lane. So I think going through and using, don't do it during halftime. Halftime is crazy. In a normal swimming session, in a normal swimming week, I would just have your lifeguards writing down how many people are swimming. You can start to get a really good indication and feel about how that pool is being utilized. And then the other bit is about chopping and changing what you're doing. So it could be that you're not just that during a lunchtime lane swim, you're reducing down to 3 lanes because they're not all being utilized, and because you've got, 15 people in and you can swim 3-5 to a lane, reduce down those lanes and start programming other things in that pool space. One of the best examples I saw of this was a GLL site in Cardiff, and they had a Good Boost session on one side. On the other side, they had a walking well-being session, and individuals were walking up and down. They had lanes there with adult learn to swim. And they had in the deep water, they had a deep water aerobic running class going on. So for each of those usuals, they could actually see that pathway and where they wanted to go next on their exercise journey. They were utilizing that pool space with so many different sessions, almost how you would do with Learn to Swim, but for adults. And then they were able to rebrand that session away from just a lane swim to a well-being swim. So you'll see some of my suggestions on the slides that will come out for this, but really start taking a think about how you can change literally chopping and changing up your pool. How can you start using more inclusive language or targeted language to bring in the individuals that you're wanting to do? So rather than just a public swim, an open swim, a casual swim, is it a family fun session? Call it a family fun session. And a family fun session have the same things involved in that. So what's going to be, are you going to have music in the background? Are you going to have toys that are available for families to be able to use? Are you going to have, I used to have in casual swims games that would complement the stages that parents could play with the kids on laminate pieces of paper. So have those sessions really targeted. Are you going to have a relaxation swim? It's very calming swim. And that it's not a lot of lane swimmers going up and down not the triathletes or the ex-competitive swimmers going up and down the line, maybe no lanes whatsoever, but it's enough space for individuals to do their head up breaststroke as they go back and forth, maybe bringing in a Good Boost session and an individual user. So what I would say is just really start to scrutinize why you're doing things. Take a step back, ask the question, could I be doing this better? Is the community that my pool in really getting the most out of my pool? And could I chop and change it in order to do it? I'm absolutely happy to work with each and every one of you on your pool programs to be able to start tailoring some of these sessions as is Swim England business team. That's it.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. And yeah, the slides will be sort of embedded, so there's much more information there, and I think it's really key. And you picked it up. I heard it when we went out to some of the pools and we talked about, what do you think of this amazing program, and this is what we're trying to achieve, and they said, we're full. Who do we kick out in order to engage with these new people? And I think doing things differently, sometimes it's the way, and sometimes it's really hard when we know things inside and out. Having someone come in, glance over what our programming looks like, help us understand what some of those opportunities are, is always really helpful, and both Suzanne and Ali are really well placed, and their teams to support looking at some of that. Ali, I'm going to hand back to you. As part of this program, there is some monitoring, evaluation. We want to gather learning. We want to know whether we're reaching the individuals that we want to reach. We want to know how successful it is. We want to help understand that business impact and that personal impact for those individuals who are now engaging, hopefully, in these aquatic health programs. For the work that we've done leading up to this, we have looked at what that process is within the water wellbeing work, and really hoped what we wanted to do was just to streamline it. We didn't want to add complicated reporting. We don't want to do that. We're not talking about huge amounts of grant money, and we don't want to take more of your time sort of doing that evaluation piece by doing it twice. So it all will be streamlined through the water wellbeing sort of monitoring evaluation processes that Ali will take you through now. Let me share my screen, Ali.
Thank you. Yeah, so typically with water wellbeing accreditation, we'd be looking to do stage 3, i.e. Identify the outcomes and the impact 3 to 6 months down the line. But what we'll probably be looking to do, that those timings may change because it's a 2-year project. So once we get to those slides, so we're looking at Swim England in terms of stage 3 at collecting data, but also collecting stories. I like the slides.
Sorry, it wouldn't let me fast forward for all these wonderful slides.
We're just doing some speed learning. Okay, yeah, next slide, please, Emily. Thank you. Okay, so this is just a reminder of stage 3, where we're looking at, we talked right in stage 1, we set ourselves a baseline, looking at counting the numbers of people, of participants that we've recruited onto the programme. So this is the time that we're then looking at how successful has that been. Then we look at demonstrating the impact via the data and collecting 2 different stories. So if we could just do next slide, and I'll just talk a little bit more about that. So in terms of what we're ideally, and acknowledging that every pool system is different, and so we don't want to put up too many barriers around it. So if you're going to struggle to give us that data, then talk to us about it at the outset, and we can talk about what is the best way around that. But what we're looking for at the outset is how many people are newly registered for the aquatic activity that we're focusing in on, how many of those have got a long-term health condition or impairment, and how many of those people were actually inactive before they started this aquatic activity. And then at the prescribed period of time for the project, or at milestones going through that, is how many people have actually attended that activity in the past month. Again, total of those numbers with long-term health conditions, and how many were, again, inactive before they started. Conscious that when you start, you'll still have new people registering as well. So we're looking just to get the data from you as to how many people has this impacted, and how many of those had long-term health conditions. Next slide, please. What we'll then do is ask just for one. I mean, we love loads. Please give us loads. But just look at those personal case studies that we know day in, day out, that are happening in your pools, where you are changing people's lives by getting them into the water and enabling them not just to learn to swim, maybe, but enabling them to now get out the house and walk to the shops and back, because I couldn't do that before. So we have, as you see on the left-hand side, there's a template for those not familiar with doing it, which we will provide for the individual or someone from the pool and the individual to complete, and that can be handwritten and scanned. It's not an issue. So complete one of those. Again, they're on our Health and Wellbeing Hub, so I'll send out the link to that and complete that. Alternatively, it can come in any other form. It can come in the form of a presentation by PowerPoint. It can come in the form of a publication on social media, or maybe even a news report on the local TV or radio, or it can come in the form of a video. But the purpose of this is to really just share the good news, but also then to get the message out about how this is changing people's lives. And then next slide, please. And then the final one is the business impact. And this is where it's not about, as we say, reinventing the wheel and learning off other people and improving things. So again, we've got a template on our Health and Wellbeing Hub that helps ask the right questions to identify how has this made a difference. And we look at the successes, and if it has been successful, what's made it successful? Yes, it went really well, but what specific things did you do to make it successful? Look at the challenges. What were those challenges? Were they foreseen or not? How did you deal with those challenges and any other barriers that came up? And also the unintended consequences. So as a result of doing this session here on a Monday afternoon, and the success of that, what were we able to do off the back of that? And maybe it's a completely different session. Go back to Good Boost. It could have been, I'm just going to do the Aqua app, but actually we've then, as a result of that, done the Aquanatal, and we've done a bit of dry land. And has this, by doing the accreditation, doing these activities, has that helped in terms of securing alternative funding from elsewhere? And sharing all those stories is just so powerful, not just from an overview of this project itself, but also by sharing it, others will learn off the back of it, and probably get to that point in a much quicker way and a more smart way. So the thing on the right, very, very small, I'm sorry, is an example of a case study, but happy to send out examples of our case studies as part of the communications for this project. And that is it, Emily, for me.
Brilliant, thank you. I'm going to talk through these bits, but I'm going to stop sharing because otherwise I can't see anybody. Wonderful. I will do a summary, a quick sum up, and then we'll use any remaining time to go through any questions that you may have. So just to go back to the beginning, this is a programme that is aimed at improving the accessibility of our pools and improving access through expansion to aquatic health activities. We want people to be able to do this close to home, in which case, and that's why we are looking at pools across the whole of Hampshire and the Isle of Wight. This programme, this grant scheme, is going to be open for 2 years. So we know that pools are currently at different stages. Some have already achieved their stage 1 of accreditation, and they may be really well placed to make an application and draw down that funding straight away. Others will need to go through that stage 1 accreditation before they can make an application for the extra funding to deliver their programs. There is help and support at every stage. So no matter where you're sort of starting, probably, you know, my reflection is this is not a very interactive session for our pools, but really this is about providing the information that was sort of suggested that you'd need to start thinking about how this could work in your spaces. And our hope is that we can pick up conversations individually, as a group, as you wish, to explore that further about what it looks like, particularly for the pools that you may sort of oversee. The funding, as I said, is around £3,850 per site, and our calculations do say that should cover up to 2 aquatic health programs. And as a pool, you may decide to do 2 together. You may decide to do 1, and then in 6 months or a year's time, look at drawing down funding for a second program. It really goes at your pace to ensure that delivery is really successful. And what we don't want you to feel like you need to do is scramble an application, pop it in, get the money, and get everything up and running all at one go. It really needs to be taken time to do that insight piece, understand how it would work within your programming, look at what's needed in your spaces, and then use that funding to be able to deliver on some of that. We need to know what additional support. You've heard about lots of support that Ali and her team can provide, that Suzanne can provide, that there's lots of opportunities to connect with other training and resources out there. But we really want to hear if there's things that are missing that we can have a look at. So whether that's around additional support with recruitment, whether that's work around engagement with your community, or helping to get the news about your sessions out there. We really want to help you work to create better connections with your local health partners. So if that's something that you feel that you don't have that really good connection in with your local health teams, we want to help you do that, and we can absolutely support that, building that relationship with your health partners. And like we're saying, it's really important. They are that trusted source. I was only listening to some insight this morning that said that if they weren't recommended by their health provider, they wouldn't have gone to an activity. So that's not for everybody, but we know that that's that support to get started is really needed, and those trusted sources are individuals that we go to, especially if we've got a long-term health condition. We want that empowerment from health provision into these activities. So we Energise Me can absolutely support with building that connection with health. And we've got our public health partners on the call as well, who are really good at doing some of those in their spaces too. So let us know. You don't need to tell us right now. You can think about it. It can change over time, but do keep that open conversation about what you need in order to make this programme successful in your spaces. I think I have probably covered everything that I can think of, but I will open up the floor. I am well aware that we've lost a few people along the way on this call, and that I did have a fair few apologies, that I know that they'll be waiting for this recording. But if anybody's got any questions, please take yourself off mute or pop your hand up any way you want to do it. Go ahead, Tim.
Hi there. I've got a question for Suzanne, really. And what was the prerequisites for the training for Good Boost?
No prerequisites. And actually, because all the exercises is done through the AI, and it's Class 1 medical device. So for the facilitators, we do the training for them ourselves. It's about 3 hours long at the moment. What I would say is it's personality based. And it's not job function related. So we have swim instructors, we have lifeguards, we have receptionists, we have volunteers. It's down to finding someone in your facilities who are affected with a long-term health condition or have MSK, or who know someone who has a MSK conditions. Those are our best because they're so sympathetic to the individuals coming into the facility. So definitely looking for more of the softer side of skills rather than anything tangible.
Yeah, and the reason I put that out there as a question is that the ASA side of things, Ali, the Aqua referral GP course is very limiting with the prerequisites. And although I'm very lucky at One Leisure on the Isle of Wight, where 80% of my gym staff are now GP referral qualified, there isn't that crossover from them. They're land-based instructors. They're not interested in doing wet side activities. the people that are interested in doing wet side activities, I've got lots of very good swimming teachers and swim coordinators and aquafit instructors who would be perfect for that. But there is no way without 2 years worth of investment and £2,000 worth of investment for each person that I could ever get them onto the Swim England level 3 Aqua GP. Is there going to be anything coming from Swim England as a different type of course so that I can get those people involved who want to be involved in water-based activities? There we go.
Yeah, massive, great call, Tim. And to be fair, we've had this challenge for some while. Absolutely, the aquatic activity for health can only ever be people that have had that proper qualification already, because it's literally 2 days building on what they will have known already. Swim teachers are great in the water, but would not have that knowledge. So there's 2 bits here for me. One thing is we are looking at the prerequisites for the aquatic activity for health, acknowledging that GP referral instructors and PT instructors are starting to have a little bit more long-term health conditions in their training, whereas the historic qualifications didn't. And we're in initial conversations about what can we do for the very situation that you're talking about. In terms of the short term, it would then be a swim teacher delivering good boost in effect. Yeah, absolutely acknowledge it, because you're right. It's the people that are passionate about the water that want to get in the water with these participants, and it's the GP referral instructors who probably don't ever swim themselves.
Yeah, that's my biggest barrier at the moment, staffing. You know, I've got people that want to do GP stuff, but they're never going to get the qualification in the next 2 years.
No, absolutely. Yeah.
So
Brilliant. Thank you, Tim. If nobody else has a question at this time, and like I said, it's not limited to ask now or never, so do come back to us if you do have questions along the way. Our plan now is that the grant application, alongside all of the supporting documents, including a supporting document how to complete the application, it's a very short form, access to today's information, links to lots of other information that you may want to look at, will all be held on the Energise Me website. And so what I will do is I will email everybody that has signed up for today and all of the pools that we've connected with across Hampshire and the Isle of Wight, and make sure that you have links to where all of that information will be held. And then we hope just to keep this conversation going. So if we don't hear from you, we will come back out to you and talk about your thoughts around the programme, sort of where you're currently at within your thought process of sort of expanding your offer. We know that there's lots of appetite to do this work, but it's just around some timing that's going to be right for you. We're also gathering lots of insight, local insight, and there was even some feedback from I think some of the posts that were done around the launch of this programme, with some of our local residents feeding in some of their thoughts. So we will make sure that we continue to sort of share that, so you're understanding how our communities are feeling about our pools and our current offer. So we'll keep that going. I'll end the session there, and just to say a massive thank you to everybody for attending, for giving up your time, Ali, Suzanne, Angela, for coming along and sharing. It's really useful, but a massive amount of information probably to digest in a short amount of time. So hopefully we'll go away and do some reflection and understand what it means for us and our organisation, and have some internal conversations. And then please do get in touch with us and let us know your thoughts and your next actions, and of course what support and guidance that you might need from Energise Me or from any of our other partners that have joined today. Thank you very much, everyone, and enjoy the rest of your afternoon.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Emily. Take
Thanks,
care.
bye.
Thanks, all. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.